and they can look alike. They can have a resemblance. But man,
A resemblance? Do you dream of being a resemblance? Hello, and welcome to the So Sweet podcast with Kat and Tip.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm doing great, thanks. How are you doing?
Yeah, all good.
Yeah, I'm slightly exhausted.
Slightly exhausted. Why would that be?
Sorry, I've been to Cyprus.
She's been to Cyprus.
I have.
That was her big, busy schedule.
Yeah.
Sunning herself by the pool.
Oh, with so many mojitos.
Wow, it sounds so exhausting.
Exhausting.
Yeah. You're right, it sounds shattering. I don't know how you've made it through.
I fed over 42 stray cats.
Yep.
It was awful. But to be fair, I did get whisked away by the sea and hurt my foot.
Wow.
That was a whole thing. And then I lost my goggles as well.
You lost your goggles?
So the sea it was storm. We had a storm, right? And this was like just as the storm was coming in, and we decided to go snorkeling, which was don't do it. We had a big wave that I wasn't expecting, and I saw it coming. Thought I need to get out of here. Turned around to quickly run out of the sea. Too late. It took my legs from underneath me. I went down. The sea came over me, went back, smacked me in the face. I went down on rocks, came out the sea, foot was bleeding, mouth full of seawater. I thought I was genuinely going to get whisked out to the sea and die. And it took my goggles. It was terrifying.
R.I.P. goggles.
I didn't go back in the sea.
No. Well, I'm just glad that you've
I am here to tell the tale. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know how horrible it was to watch Lucky Day in the sun by the pool with a mojito? Do you know how horrible that was?
It sounds horrific.
Yeah.
I've been at work all week.
So you've had a good week, huh?
Yeah, it's been great. No, nice to have you back.
Yeah. Don't worry, different country didn't stop me watching Doctor Who and having thoughts.
Nah, of course not.
Oh, there was a lady. Shout out to this lady. Didn't get her name. I was too scared. I wanted to approach her. She had a TARDIS tattoo. And she looked like my kind of gal. But I was too scared to talk to her.
Because of the TARDIS tattoo?
Yeah.
Primarily?
Yeah.
You didn't just... The TARDIS tattoo wasn't like an add-on.
No.
You weren't like, who's that hot...
Hot mama.
Hot mama.
Get out.
Who's that hot mama with a TARDIS tat? Well, should we get stuck in?
I think we should.
I mean, we'll do a quick, because last week we said that we were going to come back with our thoughts on the well.
The well.
I didn't make any of those easy well jokes last week. I want some...
You say well in the 10th Doctor's voice all of the time.
Well. So I'm going to make up for it this week.
Good. That's all I'm going to be hearing for the next 2 minutes.
Yeah. No, 1 week on.
How many times have you watched it?
Only twice. Only twice. I've been busy. Some of us can't bloody be selling ourselves on next to pools and...
It was my first holiday in like 8 years.
Cats and lusting over TARDIS tattoos. All right. I do that in my free time.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I really liked it. But it's interesting because I saw a few people say on first watch it didn't really grab them. Yeah. And that they felt like they needed to do a couple of rewatches.
Yeah, but I feel the same way. I needed a couple of rewatches.
So it's interesting.
Yeah, I'm fully for it.
But I really liked it. I'm standing firm on an 8.
Yeah. I'm standing firm on an 8.5.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
But enough of that. That's old news.
Old news. That was last week.
Yesterday's news. Today's chip wrapper or whatever the phrase is.
What? What?
That's a phrase. It's like yesterday's news is tomorrow's
chip wrapper. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Thinking about it. You know I'm not very good with those.
No. Anyway.
Lucky day.
Lucky day.
So, before we get into Lucky Day, I want to jump to the end.
No. No.
Let me.
No, hold on. What specifically do you want to jump to the end?
Our bet.
You want to talk about Okay, alright, sure. Go on. We can jump to the end.
So now we've seen the governor.
Yes.
How are you quaking? Are you quaking even more than last week?
No.
What do you mean no?
I don't know. I just, last week made me go, oh, sciencey theories.
Yeah.
Oh, what I predicted, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess that's kind of Rani-ish. This one is just generic, enigmatic villain. I'm still thinking, oh god, you're right, aren't you?
Yeah.
I've not got any less faith in it than I did last week.
Right. Okay. So the disguises didn't make you think, oh, that's quite Rani-ish.
No, because she's been wearing different costumes.
Yeah, exactly.
Over the.
But do you not think now putting a name to it, like the governor?
No, not really.
Okay. Well, let's get into the episode then, I guess.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Thoughts? Okay, because sorry,
this happens every week. What do you think? Brilliant.
No, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I liked it.
What was that face though?
I don't know. I think I liked it.
Mm.
It was solid. I don't think it was great.
Really?
Mm.
Oh.
Is this the first one we're gonna like majorly differ on?
Yeah, I think so. I do think so. Yeah. Okay. Because I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was like a solid, like on the level of last week's, if not even a bit more grounded. Yeah. No, it's 8.5 territory for me. Maybe even a 9.
No.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Go on. You explain yours, and then I'll tell you why I liked it.
I think I don't mind necessarily that it was a doctor-lite. Although I've seen like
it's not even that doctor-lite though.
It's pretty doctor-lite.
It's not doctor-lite in the sense of like what Turn Left is.
It kind of is.
No, because you get the shot.
He turns up at the start. Then you get the scene where he sees Ruby and the Doctor with the shriek.
Yeah.
And then he turns up at the end.
Yeah.
That's Love and Monsters does that.
Have you seen people have been saying it's Love and Monsters too?
It kind of is.
No!
It kind of is. It's basically it's Love and Monsters with bad Doctor Who fans. Like bad take Doctor Who fans.
Oh my god.
Whereas Love and Monsters is it's fun and it's nice and
when I first watched it, I giggled to myself because I was like, "Oh, Love and Monsters too," like for the like first 5 minutes, and then as soon as like they're
very different stories.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is the core premise of the Doctor meets somebody as a child and has a profound effect on them and their life.
Yeah.
And they become slightly obsessed with that part of his life.
Yeah.
And basically their whole identity around it.
Yeah.
That's Love and Monsters. It's just how Alton and Conrad are very different characters and go very different ways from that experience.
They have the same experience, but I don't think it's in any way, shape or form remotely like Love and Monsters.
No, I think they're just like mirror images of, if Alton was a prick.
Conrad's a bit more than a prick.
Yes, I was being... I don't know how many of the words I'd like to use to describe him I can get away with saying. It's if Alton were a wrong and some kind of alt-right social media influencer presence, this is how Love and Monsters would go.
I don't know about that. I disagree with that.
They're very different tonally, but what I'm saying is the instigating incident. The inciting incident is basically the same. The very like.
But they're also very different children with very different situations.
Yeah. No, absolutely. But I think just because it's a Doctor-lite story, it kind of focuses a lot around his relationship with a companion or somebody that's close to. So obviously in Love and Monsters, you've got Jackie. Here you get Ruby.
Yeah.
And trying to use them to get something. I think there's a lot of parallels. I'm not saying they're like one-to-one, but like I can definitely see why people would say,
it's Love and Monsters.
it's a little bit like Love and Monsters in this respect, but takes a very different turn.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's my take.
Yeah. And we didn't get an absorber off.
We didn't get an absorber off,
and we also didn't get a ruby paving slab, which is always nice.
Yeah. But no, I thought I didn't mind the fact that it was Doctor-lite, although I have seen quite a few people, I know Harbo said, like, in a series of 8 episodes, which is 7 stories, there's not room for something like this.
Which I really disagree on, and
okay,
I
call him out.
When I read that, I was like, oh, babes.
No,
No, because
I can see what he's saying.
No, I'm gonna fight it. Because it's not like it's just an episode that it's like, oh, we'll just pop in a doctor-lite one in these and this one's just a filler one. But it's not a filler episode. It's really good episode to set up the spin-off, which we don't necessarily need in the main story. However, it puts a very interesting light on Unit and how that's handled going forward. It does a lot of character work that we didn't necessarily get in season 1, so that really helps there. They do something interesting with Ruby and Unit and Conrad. Conrad also is definitely set up for the finale. So it's not like it doesn't do anything. It's also feels like a very good and grounded Doctor Who episode. If it didn't feel like Doctor Who and it felt like something that's just slotted in because of what XYZ reason, then I'd understand. But this feels like a Doctor Who episode, regardless of whether the Doctor is in it or not, and he is the reason why all of this is happening.
I do want to say, just quickly, it really made me sick that you said Z and not Z.
XYZ?
XYZ.
XYZ.
Come on now.
What? What's wrong with Z?
You can't sit there and have a cup of tea and be all British and then do an American pronunciation of the alphabet. That's what's wrong.
Is that an American pronunciation?
Yeah. Z. That's why they say, like, zebra.
Zebra?
Yeah. Zebra. Z.
I'm sorry.
Good.
I didn't know. I just said Z. I interchange Z, Z, Z. Why not?
Z.
No, I don't Z anymore. I used to Z. We all used to Z.
We've got enough of a tangent already.
Come on.
No, I don't think it's filler, because there is a lot there that's playing into the series arc. Like you say, there's a lot of characterization stuff. There's a lot that's setting up for the finale.
Yeah.
There's a lot, again, as you say, with the spin-off, which I agree.
Yeah.
You probably don't necessarily need
it
all
in
of
the main body, but it helps.
Only issue, and I think the story in itself was solid. It's a solid concept. It was reasonably well fleshed out. I've got some issues with it, which we'll get into.
I've only got one issue with it, I think, or one or two.
But
big note.
The only thing is that because we've got such a short run, I want more Doctor and Belinda.
No, but this is the thing.
Because I know that we've got limited time with them.
I know.
And
I think...
in a longer series, this would be, even in a 10 episode series, this would be great. But it is just a little bit, I think, because we've had a nice sort of trajectory and momentum of the Doctor and Belinda's.
Yeah, and this is a nice break. And this is a nice breather, because we still get that at the beginning. But
but for me, this episode meant that kind of momentum for their...
No, but it's still going, because
characterization
this is before Belle.
No, I know that, but I'm watching it now. So as a viewer, I've been with these characters, learning and sort of growing, and it's really nice. And then screech to a halt, because we're going back to... No,
I think it's a nice break. I think if we had 7 episodes of just following them from point 1 to B to blah, 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 people, like I've seen on Twitter, people are already getting bored of that. So I think this was a nice point where we can just break it up, have a breather, learn some other characters that we don't get to see all of the time. We don't get to have a fully in-depth episode of Kate and her reactions to things. We haven't, like...
But is that not what the spin-off's for?
Possibly, and this is a good starting point for it.
Is that not where... And don't get me wrong, like I really liked all of the stuff that's in there.
But we're getting a unit finale. The unit's going to be in the finale, and it's Earth-based, and things like that. So if we don't have any important setup mid...
But what I'm saying is, this isn't the only way you can set up that is by excluding... two protagonists.
No, absolutely not. But I think it's a lot more interesting not having the Doctor there, because now we can see what Unit do on Earth without the Doctor.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with all of that, and the whole thing of having Ruby as our protagonist for this week, and getting to sort of see what they do when the Doctor's not there,
and we also
all of that. But
it wraps up the he spoke about you in the robot revolution. Now we know that it's Conrad, and Conrad is the reason why the Doctor's been going on this search for Belinda at the beginning.
Yeah, no, I get all of that. Like it ties together and like mechanically works.
Yeah,
it's a shame that we've had 3, like, I'd say pretty good to really good episodes.
Yeah.
With the Doctor and Belinda, and then
it continues without them, and we still get a banging episode. I don't think it's a jarring halt.
I found it a little bit like of a screech to a halt. And obviously I knew that this was coming, and I knew that this was the one without the Doctor and Belinda in it, really, and it was a sort of Ruby centric unit episode.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I do kind of agree with Harbo, because I liked it. But I feel like in the wider series, it feels like a bit of a sidestep. Just as we were getting momentum, I feel like this was maybe not an odd place, because it is the halfway point of the series. Yeah. But I think if you had a 10 episode series, this would be maybe an episode 6 or something like that.
Okay.
Like, I think if you, do you know what I mean? Like, I think, brilliant. I think if I needed a couple more just to continue that, then we can sidestep. Because if you think
it would end up being like a 3.
But how can it be too close to the finale? Because already we've only got 2 stories, and then it's the finale.
Exactly.
Which would be, if it were a 10 episode and we had it as episode 6. Episode 7 would be.
I thought you were still going on about an 8 episode, but have it later on.
Oh no! I mean, I
you're still on the 10 episode.
Yeah. I understand why you couldn't have it in the. This is the only place it would fit.
That's why I said no, because I was confused.
In the episode run that we've got.
Right. Okay.
But I just think that an unfortunate consequence of having such a short run is that episodes like this feel a little bit like they're interrupting. I felt like they were anyway.
Okay.
Even though I quite liked it sort of in a vacuum.
I'm going to challenge both of you. So this is for Harbo, when you're listening, and for you.
And he's here. Hello.
Hello. So this is for Harbo, and this is for you, as you're sat here currently.
Oh, she looked me dead in the eye. She said that. That was really unsettling.
Yeah, good. I challenge both of you to come back to me after the finale and wait until we've seen the whole series. And if you still feel the same way, fine.
Okay.
So let's just wait and see. Watch the full series.
Mm-hmm.
Watch the finale.
Yeah.
Because this is obviously setting it up for it. Let's see how that plays out.
Mm-hmm.
And then come back to me and tell me what you think then. And see if you have any different thoughts.
Yeah.
I think that's fairer.
Yeah. I mean,
and if you have the same thoughts, then that's fine. But you might feel differently when you've got the whole series. Then you can feel like, actually, yeah, that didn't hinder the next episode, blah blah blah. Or or it might ground your thoughts even more and be like, actually, yeah, that really did break it for me.
Yeah, I don't think it's a case of it like hindering anything, and it's obviously setting up the finale, as you say, and all of that. But I don't know, it felt a little bit like I was really getting into my stride with this new Doctor companion duo and that relationship and everything with them. And then it was like, but we're taking a break from that this week. And it was like, oh, but I like that. Like that I'm invested in that. And I don't know.
I just think it was a nice breakup, and it was if I had another episode where I was following and it was the same thing and it's just over and over again,
That's Doctor Who.
No, I know, but we get doctor-lite episodes in the 13 episode run or 10 episode run.
Yeah, but they all come around the episode 10, 11.
Yeah, but we don't have that many.
Yeah, I know.
And if we had it later, it would just be a 3-part finale. And if you had
I'm not saying it should be pushed down the line. I'm just saying.
But it wouldn't work any other place.
I know it wouldn't, but what I'm saying is you don't have to do a story where the Doctor doesn't show up in an 8-episode run.
Absolutely, but I think this was necessary.
This is the right place for this story.
Yeah. But I don't have any issues with not having the Doctor as the main protagonist here.
Yeah.
I'm fine with it. I think it's a nice breath of fresh air, and I think if they didn't do something with the episode and we didn't get a nice little character
and it
study,
felt like a waste,
and it felt like a waste,
yeah,
then fair. But it wasn't that.
Yeah.
And regardless of whether I think there's some plot holes, there's some niggles here and there, regardless of that, it was a strong, nice little bow on the series. If it wasn't that, I'd be on yours and Harbo's side. But because it wasn't that. And it was intentional, and it was a good episode, I'm happy with it. I'm fine with it, and I'm glad that I didn't get the Doctor as the main protagonist and
I
main
agree.
character.
I don't think this story exists with the Doctor in it. I don't think there's a version of this story that exists with the Doctor in it, because it kind of undermines everything that it's doing. But yeah, we'll come back to it once we finish the series and see.
Yeah.
What do you want to jump into next? Do we talk Conrad?
Let's start with Conrad.
I
really liked him in the way of I absolutely detest him.
Yeah, the love to hate.
I love to hate him. I've seen some very conflicting thoughts and views on him.
Okay.
I think I'm pretty happy where I sit regarding him.
As in his performance, as in how he was written?
No performance. Kind of written. So it was mainly about the whole child abuse set up at the beginning.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people have been using the argument Hitler was abused as a child, but you don't feel pity for Hitler. I feel like this situation he was put in and grew around does not make me condone any of his actions, but it was used to set up and world build that character.
Yeah.
So I was not fine with it, but you know.
I didn't really question it.
I didn't question it until I saw other people questioning it, and I was like, I started to feel a bit lost.
Because, and that's not to say that I overlooked it, but when the scene happened and saw it, my reaction was, that's horrible. That's, and I did feel sorry for him.
It's just backstory for what is happening, going to happen in the future.
If you think, taking out real world examples and stuff, but how many villains in media have a tragic backstory where, they weren't loved as a child, so they want to conquer the world. Pretty much all Disney villains are it's a very tried and tested thing and it gives a little bit of depth. It makes them less two-dimensional and for it to not be he was a wrong and right from when he was born. I think it was Tharies that had a tweet saying about that it just adds adds nuance and gives him a bit more depth as a character, that it's not it doesn't mean that bad things can't have happened to him, that absolutely. You can feel sorry for him for, because he's a human being. It's
and that's where people I saw comments saying, well, Hitler was abused as a child, do you feel pity for him? And I was just it lost me.
I don't think
they don't equate.
I don't think you need to, because the argument there is obviously this is you've written that scene, you've written that in, and I think some people are well, why have you made me feel sorry for him? And then you want me to hate him?
Two things can exist at the same time.
All right, 14. What? No, but it's a thing. It's not all black and white. There's all the shades of grey in between. You don't necessarily have to completely hate this person.
No.
Or if you do, it doesn't mean that you have to think that they weren't a victim in a certain situation or feel sorry for them in a certain situation. I'm not going to lie. I think that's obviously everybody's entitled to their opinion. I do think that's a lot of waffle.
It was just made a more nuanced character.
And I think there's an element of that adding to his lack of trust in people.
Well, if we break down
authority and
this is the thing, because if we break it down, we understand that he is going through this situation with his mother, and you can also presume a lot of other things just based on that scene alone, with how she reacts with the guy that she's with over Conrad.
Yeah.
You can start to imagine and brainstorm some things that could be happening off screen. Then he meets the Doctor, which then, as even just his presence, he brings an authoritative figure stood right in front of him.
Especially to a child.
To a child, like, who...
You know.
Absolutely. We can presume the father figure isn't there. Not saying that the Doctor's a father figure, but he is a male authoritative person standing before him. And this is an 8-year-old child, who he then says, it's New Year, got new possibilities. This is your lucky day. Gives him hope right from the offset. And says, essentially, without knowing any of his backstory, this is going to be your year, as he's being flamboyant, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And then abandons him. And then we've got Conrad from 8 years old, and from that instance, he's going to be going home, going through all of that conflict still, but he's holding on to that 50p coin as a lifeline. For
it to be like, this is hope that this gets better.
Absolutely. And then as he's going and maturing through his years, and he starts researching things, he then goes on about questioning other people who have experienced things with the Doctor, reading stories, blah blah blah. Why didn't he take me with him? Especially if he reads things about past companions, things like that. Obviously he can start to develop this kind of like, why not me situation. That whether that's subconscious or not, he then goes to try and apply for UNIT, and he sees Kate as the human Doctor on Earth, as she's leading everything, and she says no. And it's just L's after L's for him.
It's just rejection, isn't it?
He feels small, deflated. Even the earthbound Doctor, in his eyes, doesn't even want him. There's going to be a whole load of mummy issues around that also.
Because Kate Stewart is mother.
And a really interesting thing that I saw as I was analysing it as well, when we see... So I'm going to flip-flop a little bit here. I'm a bit confused around the whole podcast live situation with Ruby. We'll discuss that. We'll go on to discuss that. But I thought it was really interesting visually because it shows that was live streamed. The podcast was live streamed, and you saw the number count at the top, and it only got to, I wrote it down, 1,701 views. But then when you see his stream on TikTok, the live stream got like 96,000 plus.
Right.
So what I think is the podcast that he invited Ruby onto, because he said that he interviews people and things like that.
Yeah.
That's his podcast where he can do that to garner information and get closer to the UNIT lies things.
Okay, yeah.
So, because if that was all of his toxic UNIT lies, blah, 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 podcast, then Ruby would never have gone on it. Because her purpose there is UNIT going, okay, we've caught a shriek. The only other person who was there who it could possibly be after is Conrad, who's trying to find you. Go onto this podcast, take the antidote, give him the antidote there and then. He'll take it. The shriek isn't going to want to come after anyone.
Yeah.
So that's Ruby's intention to go on there. Especially because he's like, we've been trying to get UNIT on it for ages, blah, blah, blah. So I think that podcast is his cover story, especially with the views
like
that he
decoy.
gets. It doesn't, and that's how he knows that he can get Ruby to trust him.
Yeah.
So all of his other spiel is under think tank.
Yeah.
So I feel like he's faceless up until that point, because my confusion, where I thought there could be threads unwinding here, is, well, there's no way that they would have let Ruby onto that podcast without doing some kind of background.
Yeah. I think there's quite a big element of having to suspend your disbelief that UNIT wouldn't be able to track the source of this anti-UNIT.
I feel like,
hype.
This is when I said there was one or two things and they're kind of linked. This is what it is. Because you'd think that he would have some sort of footprint.
Yeah.
So it would have to be under the think tank. Obviously, they find out Jordan does all of that when they look into it. But I feel like it maybe was a situation where UNIT has more pressing things to do than figure out where all of this noise is coming from. And it might not have been as big until it hit news and it was broadcasted and it got picked up that way. So that was using Ruby, and Ruby being a part of that was why he obviously did all these manipulation tactics, get her close, learn about her, to know that, okay, she's gonna call UNIT and we'll have a big deal when if we set it up like this. If we can get her scared. He listened obviously over dinner, all of the things that the Shriek does in order, so he was able to play that to get her worked up, paranoid and scared. He knew that she would just run to Kate and then UNIT would come bombarding in, and he was really risky with that because they could have just shot them. So he was happy to play with lives. Like, he shot Jordan in the end, so we can see that he doesn't care about who gets in the way.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So that would have looked bad for UNIT anyway. Oh, they didn't even check to see if it's aliens. See, they're not aliens, they're just kids in costumes, blah, blah. So that's going to work out in his favour. And it worked out in his favour anyway, because he got the publicity that he wanted. So he knew that he needed Ruby, because from that moment where he was unpicking her on the podcast, he knew, here's my golden ticket, essentially.
Yeah. I think it's a really interesting... I mean, we suspected that he was going to be a wrong one, like, before going into this episode. I think when we were talking our predictions, we were saying, I have a feeling that he's using Ruby to get to UNIT or something like that. I think it was interesting to see that kind of unfold. And I think this is what we were saying, that the whole thing of Ruby's story is what she now does after the Doctor.
And this is, I was thinking about this as well after the first time I watched it, and I was like, it's so nice, and this sounds horrible, it's so nice to see such consequences for the companion, because we get consequence. It's
consequences, but it's not massive sort of like they're dead or they're in a parallel universe or they can't do this or that. It
is just throwing her in the deep end.
Small scale, personal.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got some mental scarring from all of this.
Yeah.
And we kind of unraveling that.
And we don't see that.
I really like that. I think this is the best
Ruby
outing.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting. The reason it didn't properly connect with me is because it's like, oh, this is a really nice extension of her character and taking her somewhere new and doing something with it. And it felt quite nuanced. I thought her performance was really good. I think Millie Gibson's really good in this episode.
Yeah.
I thought it felt organic.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it would have been good to see that in
series 1,
whole season that she was in.
Yeah. Well, this is what I mean why this was an important episode, because we got character work that we didn't see in season 1.
But it didn't feel, I think, because so much of their adventures were just running around and there's no consequences and there's no conflict, and I'm not really bothered. Like, she literally got shot and died.
Yeah.
And nothing really
came
comes of it.
Yeah.
And then in this episode, she's like, oh, when I was hanging from that ladder and getting kidnapped by goblins, I think I've got PTSD.
Yeah.
It's like,
of course you do.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, but also...
But where did we see that?
When was there any inclination to that?
There could be an argument of she hadn't processed it.
I think
she's also like 19, 20 at this point.
Yeah. There's definitely something interesting there of like, oh, wasn't it fun? And then actually thinking about it and being like, oh, but I think you need more of that fear and not the paranoia, but I think in this episode where she's saying, I'm like expecting bad things to happen. I feel like I'm waiting for things to happen and all of that. That would work even better if she had that kind of reaction to things when they were actually happening.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? If she's got that kind of fear and sense of apprehension, it doesn't mean that she has to hate being there. But I think add that
add some more
as well
fear.
as her having fun and the adventure and the excitement.
Yeah, but we needed some reaction from her throughout series 1 anyway.
Yeah, and I think
now works nicely because if you think of her timeline and what we've been given, she's fun, gets her mum back, then suddenly gets her dad back as well. So she's processing all of that. So here's a nice time for her to process all of the doctor stuff, which I really enjoyed. I did
and
enjoy that.
She did feel a lot more mature in this episode.
Yeah.
And I think that probably comes hand in hand with like the characterization of like, oh, I feel like I understand you as a person now. Yeah. Which I didn't really. Yeah. It was a sort of like a sketch. I know roughly what you're kind of like. I know you're nice, and I know you've got a maternal instinct.
I was going to say she acted her age last season,
and this felt
now
like
she's
she'd
more
grown
mature,
up. Yeah. Yeah, it was interesting. I thought she was really good in this. Mm-hmm. I think she played the insecurity really well. Mm-hmm. Because as I was watching it when she was sort of just telling Conrad everything, I was a bit like, why are you telling this complete stranger like, all of this? And then I realised obviously she's trying to help him, and then he's manipulating her and he's getting this information out of her.
Do you know what I really like as well, adding on to that? I really like what they did with his wardrobe, because they mimicked the Doctor's first scene with Conrad as a child. And he mimicked his outfits when he was with Ruby, and that adds another layer and he kept using his language. He kept saying about being like the Doctor and wanting to be like the Doctor. He kept repeating, "I met him when I was 8 years old." He kept using in very intentional dialogue to get Ruby to trust him and make him feel like the Doctor, so he could get more information out of her.
Yeah, that's a nice detail.
They worked hard, like Conrad worked hard to get all of the little like psychological bits for Ruby to entice her more.
Yeah, because when I was first watching it, I was like, why are you telling him all of this? And then it clicked that, oh, he's consciously getting this information out of her, like lying about his mum being dead and being like, I've revealed my insecurities, so
you give me yours. Yeah, it's a mirroring thing,
and also the fact that you go, oh no, she's actually really struggling, like she needs to confide in someone, and this guy's being like, I understand, I can
absolutely help you. I was going to say, because you've got to think as well, A, her age, B, we see her fully accept the Doctor straight away, so we know that it's in her nature, but B, also this is a very, very singular experience, and unique experience that he is saying from a young age he shares. And she even says, I can't talk to anyone about this, I feel like I'm going to explode. And she can't divulge things on the podcast, which he understands, but if he knows that if he gets into her head, there's easy opening for her to just start relaying information, and her just giving him even just basic information straight off the bat. Because he says to her, and this was my first comment, it makes sense now, but my first comment when I watched it, he was like, I have so many questions for you. And she goes, well, and then just starts giving him information. Seeing that straight away, he's like, okay, well, this is going to be easier for me. Like, there's all, for no offense, but for once, there's all the groundwork from Ruby giving character-wise to give to Conrad for him to know how to manipulate her. So
because there is that sort of sense of naivete and I think being a little bit blinded by
finally someone she can talk to who's going to understand her, because she can talk to her mums and Cherry till she's blue in the face, but
they've not
they haven't experienced what she has, and Conrad makes it out like he experiences it way deeper than he has. And he's like, look, the Doctor gave me this. There's just all of these things where he's like giving her
sort
more,
of making out they've got
this connection
in common,
and this shared experience.
I've seen people say like, oh my god, that twist, where I guess it is technically a twist. I kind of knew it was coming, that he was going to turn out to be a wrong one.
I completely forgot.
Interesting.
I completely forgot what.
So did you buy into like the sweet act?
Man, I was like, he is perfect for her. Let's go.
Wow. Okay.
And then, because I honestly completely forgot. You know what my memory's like. I
Yeah,
forgot
that's
all
true.
of the things that, even now, I forgot what I predicted.
Yeah.
The only thing I remember is Irani and Omega. Like, that's the only thing that's in my head. So I was completely there.
I knew it was coming. I could see it coming.
I couldn't.
That's not me trying to be like, I actually spotted this before it happened.
Also speaks volumes.
But I think his performance throughout,
Incredible.
I do think he's maybe the MVP of this episode.
Yeah.
And I thought Millie Gibson was great. I thought Gemma Redgrave was great.
Oh my god. Best Kate.
Yeah, like
Best Kate.
All of that sort of stuff. I thought Shooty was really good at the end, which we'll come to. But he was the standout for me, absolutely. Yeah. Jonah Howard King, I think his name is.
Yeah.
Brilliant. What a get.
I know.
Like, what a get for the show.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and he plays it. There's so much nuance, but there's so much like gravitas and sort of commanding, but also this like kind of patheticness to it. It's really interesting. Like he's got all of the nuances of that character to a T.
I was gonna say the bit that really hooked me, and I'm jumping to the end. We'll get there, but I'm jumping to the end just because we're on the topic. I saw 8-year-old Conrad in him when he was begging them.
Yeah.
When he was begging Kate, saying, "Please, please." If you notice, he changes his diction, so his voice becomes softer, and he sounds like the kid, the 8-year-old. It's crazy how you can see a child actor, and they can look alike, they can have a resemblance, but man,
resemblance. Do you dream of being a resemblance?
Resemblance. They can have a resemblance. I can't say the word now. Say it for me.
Resemblance.
Thank you.
I'll edit that in.
That's
okay, hold on. We'll do a clean take. Give me a break, and I'll say.
You can see the
resemblance.
Thank you. Just him acting. I saw the kid's face on him. Everything. I was like, oh my god, you are that 8-year. And Conrad is so layered because there are parts that when he says, you can see that he truly believes it, whether it's coming out of his subconscious, whether he's saying it meaningful, just the things that he was saying to Ruby, like when he was like, I wanted to be brave like the Doctor, everything that he is, I can be. I believed that because he does see himself so small. He is so insignificant, and he really believes that. He really is. Even if he hates the Doctor, even if he hates UNIT, he calls them traitors, all of that, but you can still see him really trying to be the Doctor.
Still not as much as he hates himself.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But I think it's really interesting because I kind of went the whole episode being like, obviously after the reveal that he's the think tank stuff, and I said from there I went the whole time thinking, oh, he actually believes this, and and then there's the thing where he's like, oh no, okay, yeah, I was lying, I was this, I lied, and
lied about everything.
So
I didn't believe that he knew what he was talking about at all.
So, yeah, but it's like, so are you doing this consciously and consciously peddling what you know to be lies? Are you touting all of this misinformation, believing it, but subconsciously there's something that you're in denial of? Or
no, he's just doing it, and this is what I think was very good for the visuals, and this helped me sink in what if I thought that he believed what he was saying or not. In the dialogue, they kind of spell it out for us, but even just in the visuals, from what he's talking about on the first podcast with 1,000 views as to his 96 that he gets when he's just saying it because it gets him
to get him the
money and the attention and the ego. He realizes, I can speak about the truth and get nothing. I can spout all this misinformation and lies. Doesn't matter what harm I'm doing because it's getting the attention that I never got. It's getting him what he feels like he needs.
Yeah.
And that's enough for him.
It's I think it's really interesting that it's such a parallel to. I know we were joking earlier about like the Love and Monsters, like Elton and Linda are like the positive side of the fandom.
Yeah.
Whereas this is, because it is essentially like, whether it be with the visual language or the dialogue or any of that, he's painted as like an alt-right sort of
that's
slightly kind of incel-y, like sensationalist sort of, there's an interesting parallel there for
the anti-vaccine.
And well, I was going to say more specifically within Doctor Who, like they're not my doctors, and the you idiots like bloody Bolstrek and all of those like twats on YouTube,
right?
That peddle this. Oh, it's too woke, and like it's just idiots being like, oh, I know that I can appeal to people.
So the people that like Doctor Who's dead, I'm never watching another episode, which they're saying every single episode.
Yeah.
And Doctor Who's too woke, I'm never watching it again. And then
it had someone that was black in it.
Right.
Which, to be fair, is quite a lot of the episodes recently.
I don't know if you noticed.
Yeah. Or like, oh yeah, it had somewhat like they referenced that someone's a lesbian, or that they talked about pronouns.
Right.
Whoop-de-doo.
Right.
But
that gets them more attention. The hatings get more attention than the loving.
Exactly, and it's really profitable.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
In this like culture war sort of time.
Well, that's who he was supposed to be, isn't it? Everyone who has podcasts and blah blah blah.
Just
social
instigating
media influencers,
this hate and vitriol and
whether
bile.
they believe it or not, it's getting them money.
Exactly, and
but it's rallying up, though, isn't it?
There's an interesting thing in the fact that it's okay. So the big sort of talking point that I've seen is around the politics of this episode.
Yeah.
Some people have read it as
anti-government, anti-establishment.
Well, that people have read it as Conrad is anti-government and anti-establishment, and that the episode is saying, no, government and military and all of this, good. Don't trust, like, you should trust it. It's there to help you. Don't ask any questions. You should never question it. I think that's a really like surface level reading of it.
Yeah.
I can completely understand how you would see that. I do get that, because the villain, the antagonist of the piece, is someone that is, I guess to a certain extent, whistleblow on some secretive government goings on, right? But I think it's less so that, and it's more a takedown of those sensationalists, people that are like, oh, I'm one of you, I'm one of the people, and that. He's absolutely minted.
Yeah.
Right? His mum's living in France and he's paid for the house. Yeah. The very like establishment that he's proclaiming to be against and taking down, he's a part of.
Yeah, absolutely. And like,
he is a part of.
And when Charlie's like, he's a tax dodger, and he's like, you're using our money, taxpayers' money, which he doesn't contribute to. Yeah. So it doesn't affect him at all.
And it's exactly thing of like, oh, I'm one of you. Yeah. Like, and politicians use it all the time.
Absolutely.
Like, oh, I'm just one of the working people, and don't think about my salary.
Yeah.
Like, oh, the real issue is like all these immigrants that are coming in. So all these people, that's where all the jobs and all the money's going, and I'm just gonna take out a mortgage for my sixth house.
Yeah.
And I'll put all my finances through the bloody Canary Islands or wherever to like. Yeah. All of this sort of stuff, it's all smoke and mirrors, and redirecting the blame and the where people want to attack and go, it's misdirection.
Yeah,
and go, don't look over here. Look at them. They're the bad guys.
But that was the purpose of the episode.
Exactly. That was my reading of it.
Yeah. Same.
However, I do understand how the fact that the good guys are the big established governmental body military operation, and the bad guys are the No, we want answers.
Off that point as well, I think, and I agree with people when we say aesthetically UNIT has an issue.
Yes.
So that's not helping with all of these readings.
Mm-hmm.
They were much better, and I think Moffat did it best with it being underground Tower of London. So they still have their high-tech stuff, but it's not some sort of Marvel bloody Tony Stark tower.
Yeah, it's the whole like Avengers tower thing.
Yeah, that doesn't work. It's not a good look.
However, I do like the idea. Again, we're talking not black and white.
UNIT's not great here. There's a grey area in UNIT.
There's moral grey with both sides.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a certain thing of like, I think government and establishment and military and all of this are right to be critiqued.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think UNIT is different because it's in, like, I saw someone compare it to the NHS. They are, because they're here to save the world. It's different in the Doctor Who universe, how they're set up.
Yeah, but I think there's still an element of...
There's grey area, absolutely.
But I really... and that's not a criticism.
No,
like, I really like the grey area.
Yeah, 100%.
And I really appreciated that they played into that in this episode.
And I think they're going to do that more with the spin-off.
Yeah.
I really liked Kate going too far. And everyone being like, can I just say, Gemma... My God, right. Her performance was outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
Genuinely, best Kate characterization we've had.
Yeah.
Wait. Because I'm not...
Okay, I shan't agree anymore.
No, agree, but wait. Because all of her, like, dialogue and stuff, amazing. But there was just this one key element for me. And it was all in her acting. When Ibrahim was like... I need you to authorize a deadlock see on all of this floor. And it was just Gemma's, she like drops her head a little bit and closes her eyes and she's just like, hang on a minute. And I'm just like, oh my God. This sounds so stupid, but I was like, yes, this is so good. It was from that moment on. And then she's like, I've had enough of this little loser.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. Everything that we've been working for. No, this ends now.
It's such an interesting place to take the character, I think.
Yeah.
And UNIT as a whole.
Yeah. What I've done for years is work my arse off protecting the Earth.
Uh-huh.
And you lot get 5 minutes of TV time, make everyone uproar.
Uh-huh.
We could lose all of this equipment that will literally destroy the world if it gets into the wrong hands. I'm done with this. I'm sick of this. Mm-hmm. No, you wanna see an alien? Come on then, babes. Yeah.
But it's so I think because she has been someone that's not placid, but like she's not been a particularly sort of contentious character, like personality.
Yeah.
She's had moments of challenging people and asserting her authority and challenging the Doctor and, you know. But generally she's sort of like, yeah, we'll do the right thing and let's do this and quite by the numbers.
Yeah.
And I really liked something just kind of clicked in her with this. And she was like, no. We're not
doing this.
And she went off book.
Yeah, 100%.
She went off book. And I think as much as it's trying to protect the credibility of UNIT and also, you know, like long term be able to continue doing the work that they do and helping people for, you know, greater good and stuff, there's an element of personal connection to it. Obviously with her dad.
Yeah.
And it's like his legacy.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's not just ruining all the work that I've done.
His work.
And all of these people that I respect. It's everything that my dad worked and stood for. Mm-hmm. And you're coming in here, you sanctimonious, jumped up little, like, there's such, like, venom.
My God, yeah.
Like, but I think that's so interesting because it's that moral grey and even though she's going against the villain, she's not
She's
on the
not.
light
Yeah,
side.
absolutely
Like
not.
she.
I love how she could see through him from the start.
Uh-huh.
She was finished because she knew that he didn't even believe anything that he was saying. She knew that she could get his blood pumping, his heart racing.
Yeah, and there's something so satisfying in it, but as this figure of like
Authority
moral
and
good and
leadership.
justice and authority,
Yeah.
to kind of snap a little bit
Oh,
and
yeah.
be like, no, this is a personal vendetta.
Yeah.
You've pissed me off.
Yeah.
You're getting what's coming to you.
Uh-huh.
And everyone else around her kind of reacting, like,
yeah, like
Ibrahim
this
and
needs
Shirley
to
being
stop
like,
now.
okay, like, should we?
Okay.
Yeah, the bit that sold it for me.
Mm.
I mean, there's so many great little exchanges in that
Yeah.
in that scene with her. The whole thing of like, you don't talk about my father and stuff
Yeah.
like that. The thing that got me, and I watching it, I went, yes,
Yeah.
Kate.
Go on.
was when Ruby says something and he turns and she steps in front of her and goes,
Don't you dare
point that gun at her.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my god, where is this character been hiding? Like, where is, like...
But it's so, she's the only one that's not armed. And
yeah, exactly. And she steps in front and goes, no, you, like...
You
little bastard.
Yeah.
Yeah, like,
After
you are a child.
I love it. It comes off something that's really well done throughout and seasoned in throughout, with him being twisting the narrative, and because he's got the footage, he can edit it in any way that he wants, with him being like, oh, look at all these guns pointing at one little man, I'm just defending myself.
Yeah.
As he like sneaks around, I'm like, oh, shut up.
But there's something really powerful about that, the imagery of it as well, with the body
with his
cam,
little cam, yeah,
the hoodie, the cap,
all of that.
holding a gun. It's school shooter.
Oh yeah.
It's like mass shooter, terrorist.
But also all of his merch that he definitely is selling.
Yeah.
Everyone in those protests wearing those think tank hats and hoodies, and that's everything he's live streaming. People are going on there and purchasing them because they agree with the cause and things like that.
I thought all of that was really great.
Yeah.
I like Ruby kind of, even though it was the obvious route it was going to go, Ruby saving him in the end.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But then just her like, go to hell. That was really nice.
When he was like, thank you. I really liked that moment. When he's like, oh, your special effects a bit, and then he just rips his arm off. Mm-hmm. And then you just get that shot of him with them attached, his arm, his limb back together. I was just like, yes, good. Thank you. Yeah. Give something, because he just said, because he'd obviously just cut out all the stuff when he's like, okay, I lied, cut out of all of him being a pussy.
Yeah.
And completely breaking down the narrative he's been setting up for however many years. And then he'd just be like, oh, well, all of this happened, but oh no, it was all special effects. It was all fake. It's still those, oh, they're all actors and they don't even exist, and all of this going on, and then for it to just rip his arm off and him being in prison, I was like, yeah, let's go.
And I think again, there's something really interesting there with the character, even when he's been faced with,
with the truth and what he believes,
literally right in his face, and he's had to swallow his pride and be saved by these people that he hates or purports to hate, and then stands up and immediately just falls back on his own like delusion. And
but it's not even delusion, it's just keeping up appearances. He can't be seen to be weak and admit the truth.
But I think there's an element of him playing that role for himself as much
100%,
as anyone else, because they say that they're streaming
where they tunnel the cameras to his live stream,
so he's not got, and I know like the sort of mental gymnastics that the kind of people that are his supporters would go through to be 100%. Like, oh, they've doctored this footage, it's AI,
absolutely this isn't true, they shut off his camera and they played his own propaganda, all of that.
But there's an element of like, that they've kind of exposed him, even if people will
then rewrite history anyway.
So it's kind of like, well, then who is this for? Because everyone in this room knows everything you're about is bullshit.
Yeah.
Including you.
Yeah.
He can't let go of it because it's so tightly,
there's so much hatred.
you know, and it's warped
yeah.
his very like being.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, really interesting.
And I'm glad that they kept that through into the TARDIS.
Let's talk this scene.
My lord. Just having him materialize
like around
him and putting him straight in the box. Not just being in the prison cell around him. He put him in the TARDIS.
Yeah.
Already amazing.
Because I like the fact that he doesn't enter.
No.
He doesn't get invited
no,
in.
No.
He doesn't get the privilege
of
this thing that he's probably always dreamed about, of being able to walk into the box.
Well, we see it before he gets distracted by the shriek in the first place. He goes to open the door and then we hear the Doctor and Ruby. So he's already taken out of that.
And it's kind of removing the...
opportunity.
Removing the opportunity, but removing the control and the sort of autonomy that he has.
Mm-hmm.
And the Doctor sort of just going, no.
Yeah.
You're here because I put you here.
Put you here, absolutely. You still don't have control.
Mm-hmm.
I really like how he kept up. Instead of being like, oh my god, I'm finally in the TARDIS. Oh my god, the Doctor's finally here. Because the Doctor doesn't start off straight away. He goes, I've taken the shriek back to his hive. No need to thank me. Yeah. Cheeky smile. It's the same energy from when he was 8 years old, before anything, before he starts going into him. So there was definitely the opportunity for Conrad to be like, oh my god, thank you, I've been wanting to meet you for so long, blah blah blah. There was still that opportunity for him to crumble and become an 8-year-old again. But his own narcissism and this it's
just the reluctance
story that he's built up in his head, and
but just an inability to let it go,
and it
because he's nothing without it.
Absolutely. I thought, I'm really glad that there was no crumblage here, and having his narcissism and the Doctor's ego and narcissism come head to head and it not working, and there being the first moment where there's a combative moment between
like a doctor face-off.
Between a doctor and a villain.
A
doctor and a villain, and there's
like a Matt Berry pronunciation. A doctor and a villain.
There being a head-to-head face-off between the Doctor and a villain, and there is no winner. The Doctor can't change his mind. His words are so powerful normally, and he just laughs them off. And he's not going to stand down, and the Doctor can't stand off. And he's just like, put me back on your what? And what can the Doctor do? And
it's really interesting because the sort of transition over Nshute's monologue there. Of him, as you say, starting with that very cheeky,
15th Doctor.
And then gradually all of those smiles and the light behind the eyes sort of fade in. And him being like... He
speaks through his teeth. He's
venomous. You disgust me.
You are not special.
No.
You are not anything.
You are the worst of the people that I do.
I protect people from you.
Yeah. And I protect people. I protect your planet.
Yeah.
In spite of people like you.
Yeah.
And there's something so satisfying in hearing, a character that's always like, there's no such thing as like somebody that's unimportant.
Everyone is important.
Everybody's special, and especially from this Doctor who's very like full of life and joy and positivity,
and all that.
To go, nah, you are
nothing.
Like mud on my shoe.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
His whole performance there, that like predatory sort of walk from around the console
into
towards
his
him.
face. Yeah.
But then also, as you say, Jonah King's performance, just unflinching.
Yeah.
He's
unbothered.
He lets him just do his whole thing, and finishes his speech, and the energy is kind of like, you done.
Yeah.
You finished. Are you
finished?
Cool.
Because
don't care.
Yeah.
And I really like the the kind of subtext of the line of "get off my world,"
Mm-hmm.
because there's a certain racist connotation.
Oh, naturally, we already see when he says what he says about Shirley.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Like
racism, we can build from the building blocks that we've been given. Racism is not off the cards here.
yeah, he's ableist. He's misogynistic.
Yep.
Probably a racist.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that obviously that's like, you're not one of my people, as in you're not human.
Yeah.
But there's also a you're not one of my people.
Yeah.
And there's something really threatening about him in that scene.
Oh yeah.
And the height difference between them as well, like, because he's got like a good like foot on Shooty.
I was gonna say, because when he was stood on the left and Shooty just bounces his head around the corner, and as he starts walking around, I was like, damn, there's a height difference here.
But it's really interesting seeing that power play, because Shooty
100%.
completely has the power.
Oh, 100%.
Even as he's like here and he's like
and he's
looking up at him.
Until Conrad.
And then he's sort of like,
yeah,
yeah, all right, good one.
Yeah.
And
15 hasn't experienced that either.
No, there's a real sort of hubris in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really like that it's kind of, you've tried to destroy this thing that keeps the world safe, and you know, the legacy of a very good friend of mine.
Yeah.
And all of that, and that you're dangerous and you're this and you're that, but also you've broken my mate's heart.
Yeah.
It was very much like a teenage breakup, and the best friend's like, she don't want to talk to you.
Yeah,
like,
100%.
You need to leave. You're this, you're that. You think you're like,
yeah.
But except he's got the guns to back it up. I don't know. There was something just really intimidating about them both.
Yeah.
And I was like, this could go with him like leaving him on an abandoned planet.
Yeah.
And being like, you like being king of your own little world.
Yeah, bye.
Here you go. Sort of going, where is this going? Where are we? What are we building to here? And I like that it was a kind of unresolved, not anticlimax, but it was unresolved.
It was 100%.
Because obviously he's going to be coming back.
Well, yeah.
In the finale, and that will be the sort of resolution.
Yeah.
But I really like the kind of unsettling note of neither one of them coming out on top, really. But in Conrad's head, he has won that.
Yeah.
Even though they kind of haven't.
Even in the Doctor's head, he knows that Conrad won that. Because he came at him with, I'm a time traveller, I've looked into your history, you die on your own. Right.
So dark.
You're forgotten, you're not even a footnote. Everything that you're doing now means nothing. You are still nothing. You die.
It's such
alone in the prison.
A gorgeous moment, like, because that is horrible.
Yeah. Nobody wants to know what their fate is. Alone in prison.
Yeah.
And the world is a better place for you not being in it.
It's beautifully, like, it's so dark.
Yeah.
And I think, like we say, coming from a character like the Doctor, especially this incarnation,
it hits.
And there's real venom.
Oh, 100%. He speaks through his teeth.
Yeah.
He gets up in his face and is like, you want spoilers?
He's doing a Tennant.
Yeah.
That sort of baring his bottom teeth and really getting the anger through. He spits the words at him.
It's because it comes off the back of him going, oh, you have lots of little friends, don't you? Have you met Belinda yet? And he tells him something of 15's history that he doesn't know yet.
Yeah.
So he's so he's got that on him. So he's like,
I want to.
Okay, you know what?
I know how you die.
How about that? Think about that.
Yeah.
When you're back in your prison cell, in 20 years, you're dead and no one cares.
But and that leads me again to that, because that's the whole thing of like, I don't accept your reality. I think there's an element of sincerity there. I think he genuinely believes not only is he better than the Doctor and like superior, but that this won't happen.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know how I die.
Know. Yeah.
I won't die like that.
No.
I'm going to be remembered. I'm going to be this and that.
Yeah.
So
Do you understand what I've been doing? Do you understand the backing I've got? Do you understand what I mean to these people? What, and you think no one's not
like
gonna care?
just this real narcissism and
Yeah.
like God complex,
100%.
like Messiah complex.
Yeah.
And so I think there's got to be an element of maybe you do kind of believe this, but only when it's in
your favour.
You pick and choose when you actually
cherry picking, yeah,
believe this,
yeah.
and it's just if it serves your own narrative.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a really interesting character, incredible performance from the both in that scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah.
Really good.
So why do you think this isn't a good?
So my issues with it.
Go on.
I think my two main issues.
Yeah.
I think it was slightly oddly paced. I felt like
they cut out some good scenes, though, didn't they? Have you seen the scenes that they cut?
I've not seen any of the.
Yeah, they cut some for runtime. They cut some not important, but family dynamic.
Would have fleshed it out a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was a little bit wonky pacing wise. Yeah, didn't sort of like when we got to unit and we were like the showdown.
Right.
I was like, oh, this is the third act. Like it felt like I hadn't had enough up to that. I think I needed a bit more in the second act.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that happens, and it's a 45-minute episode.
I was gonna say, I think most of the stuff that was cut was second act.
Yeah.
It was all like Conrad, like
let him
bonding with the family. Oh no.
Oh, sorry. Before the reveal.
The reveal. Yeah. It was like family stuff, like showing a bit more of how Ruby, I guess, fell for his manipulation, that kind of thing, and how he works. I think there was a few other clips. I haven't watched Unleashed yet. That was just clips I saw on Twitter.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was a little bit wonky.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, I felt like it was a little bit like it was fairly broad strokes on the sort of the kind of concept of the kind of political debate.
Right.
And I know you can't go too in depth with that. You know, it's not as you could in like a Black Mirror or something like that.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of nuance in his character, but I thought just the whole sort of takedown of Unit's credibility and all of that, I would have liked a little bit more nuance and shades of grey in there, because especially come the end, there's so much nuance and layers and depth to all of that.
Yeah.
It felt like I heard somebody say, I'm not sure if the kind of seriousness of him turning up at the end and how sort of gritty and like real that was.
Yeah.
Not sure if that was quite earned, as good as that was.
Right.
If it was earned by the story leading up to it.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, I don't know. I thought it was fairly broad strokes.
They tried. I think they tried their hardest in the runtime, and that's why they incorporated like media and like all the protests, and unrest and things like that. They just didn't have time to flesh that out. Which again, I think comes into your second act. Not enough time.
Yeah, I think
that would have been achievable.
Yeah, you make it an hour, and you'd be able to iron those creases out.
Even an extra 10 minutes.
Yeah. But yeah, those are my main two. And then also at the minute, as we were saying, the doctor-lite thing, making it feel a little bit odd, not oddly placed, but kind of took me out of, which isn't necessarily the fault of this episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, I in a vacuum, I really liked it.
Yeah.
yeah, I'm feeling.
I agree with what you said.
Thank you. That makes a change. I'm gonna go a 7.
Okay. I see. Because I still really enjoy it. I'm still feeling on my 8.
That's fair. I wouldn't deny you that.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be like
no.
an 8. That's way too high. Like
No,
I
I'm
completely
still feeling
understand that.
it because this is an episode that I'll keep coming to.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what turn left means to me.
Yes.
This feels like,
for context, turn left in a very strange turn of events. Is a comfort episode for Kat.
Yeah, I love it.
One of the bleakest outings in the whole show.
Yeah.
Is a comfort episode.
I love it. Yeah.
For Kat to curl up and get all cozy.
I
and
do.
be like,
I get cozy and like, oh, what do I fancy? Oh, I fancy a bit of turn left.
It's borderline sociopathic, but yeah, carry on. Sorry.
But if we were to equate what my comfort episode so far, this would be my little curl up. Oh, I'll pop on Lucky Day.
Fair enough.
And that's even over Lux.
Wow.
Lux is my favourite, don't get me wrong. I love Lux, but like this is when I could cozy up to and
interesting.
Just with some popcorn. Oh, I fancy watching Doctor 2, but I don't know. I'll put Lucky Day.
Okay.
That's kind of like a thing because I've watched it 4 times now, and I'll watch it again this evening, no doubt, because I do just really enjoy it. But I love a little character drama.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the strength of it. Yeah. I think there was maybe some. There was some of the. Generally, I thought it was written.
Yeah.
Really well. There was some of the dialogue where it was a bit, like Ruby just outwardly saying, "I think I've got PTSD." Felt a little bit like, "Come on, show don't tell," or have somebody else bring that up. Well, where she's like, I feel like I'm in.
That's what Kate tries to do, though, isn't it?
With the thing of like, do you think you're paranoid? Yeah, that was nice.
That was all great.
But yeah, I thought it was fairly well written generally. Yeah. Well directed, I thought as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's probably one of my favourite scenes is the cafe scene with Ruby explaining with the shriek with Conrad. Mm-hmm. I think that was really well directed. I think the delivery of it was brilliant. You can really see Conrad starting to sweat there. Mm-hmm. All around that scene was...
Yeah, it's really, really nice.
If we're talking about visuals looking really, really nice, can we talk about the TARDIS? How it's lit when he's like, circling. Warm lighting. Yeah. Oh my god. I don't understand why we keep going back to the stark white when it can be lit as beautiful as that. Like, come on, even like to get that kind of ambient atmosphere and that kind of darkness, they like half lit, and like some of the roundels and things like that. I was like, come on.
Yeah, it looks really
nice.
I
want more of that from the TARDIS. Like, I don't, you know how I feel about the design. I don't like the stark clinical white. Just give us something a bit softer.
Because I think it even looks better when there's the blue.
Yeah,
which is like
something. Just give us something.
Yeah, I think it is when there's nothing. It's just the white.
Just white. It's just 2-dimensional.
Yeah.
But I like a soft ambient of the TARDIS. That's why 10's still my favourite. 9 and 10's.
That's why I like the Capaldi TARDIS design. That's why I like when Capaldi has it and you get the warmer lighting as opposed to the like blue green that you get with when Matt has it.
Yeah.
I thought the Shriek, the design of that was really cool.
Yeah. I really liked there's a bit on Unleashed. I'm sorry, I'm really awful at remembering names, but the guy who designed the costumes or for the stunt that they did with Conrad, they showed them I don't know if it was a concept photo or the actual costume of what the Shriek is, and then an hour later got them to design the stunt costumes from memory.
Right, okay.
So I thought that was a really good... I love it when someone designs something purposefully, and because I did see a lot of people like, well, how would he remember it so accurately? And I was like, there are definitely differences between the Shriek and the costumes.
Yeah.
So
That's
I
a nice
really like
detail.
that. I
That's
think
a
it
nice
was really
detail.
good. I really liked that.
I think it looked generally really cool.
Yeah.
Just like the whole episode. I don't think it was as showy as Robot Revolution,
Yeah.
which Peter Hall obviously directed.
Yeah.
But no, there's some really nice moments and just really solid blocking and some nice shots.
Yeah. Like I really like the Auton scene where with the not Autons but the man.
Like,
Sorry. Did we watch the same episode? No, what everyone thought was going to be an Auton scene, but it's
with
just
all the
mannequins. I thought that was really good. It really was suspenseful. That was shot really well. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, it's a nice, really nice visual.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
At one point, at the top of the escalator, I did think, I was like, oh my god, are we going to get an Auton story? Even though I promised myself I wasn't going to think about it. And it wasn't, so, that's why I didn't get my hopes up. But no, I thought it was really good. I think how it was directed and shot. And I mean, I really love the pub scene as well.
Yeah.
All of that direction, how it looked visually, just all this season, visually, it's looked brilliant.
Yeah.
All the locations have been dressed appropriately. The lighting has been absolutely fantastic. And all the aesthetics, I really don't have any qualms with how it looks. Production wise, absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
We've had a really strong season.
It's been really good so
Let's
far.
go,
I'm
yeah.
Really, yeah. I mean, I'm now really looking forward to next episode.
Yeah. But that's because you wanted to write it.
Yes. No, I'm. There's something about this one that I really.
It's your most anticipated, isn't it?
Yeah, that I'm really drawn to.
Yeah.
I'm just really excited to hear a new voice.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's just going to be so different. I'm looking forward to it being quite unique and Doctor Who through this lens.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to this one. And if it's like half as good as what we've had so far, we're in for a treat.
I'm also really excited for a big spider.
Le big spider.
I really am. I'm very excited. You know I love a big spider.
You do love a big spider, don't you?
I'm very excited.
So it's an automatic 10 out of 10 for
Cat.
Cat.
Wow, what can I say?
But yeah, is it anything else? Is there anything we've not touched on?
I think so. What are your ranking? What's your
so for the
solid
season so far?
Oh yeah, we haven't done a season.
Yeah.
Ranking.
So I'd go in bottom to top.
Yeah.
I'd go Robot Revolution.
Yeah.
Lucky Day.
Yeah.
The Well.
Yeah.
Lux.
Mine would be Robot Revolution, The Well, Lucky Day, Lux.
So you preferred this to The Well?
Yeah.
Interesting.
But that's just because I've got my hang-ups on Midnight.
Yeah.
Sequel.
That's fair.
Like I'm fine with it. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like if you were to say, okay, you're gonna have a evening where you're gonna sit and watch either Lucky Day or The Well, what one are you choosing? I'd probably put on Lucky Day.
Well, should we wrap up there?
Yeah, absolutely.
In which case, let us know what you thought.
Yeah.
Drop it in the comments.
Yeah.
Or you can talk to us directly if you like.
Oh yeah, I forgot. We've got an email.
We do. It's thesayswhopod@gmail.com. So send us an email.
Yeah.
If you're so inclined. If not, how else can they reach us?
Well, I've got my Twitter, which is @simplykt_xo. Where can they reach you?
They can reach me also on Twitter @SuddenBiscuit and on YouTube on the Sudden Biscuit channel, which you may very well be watching this Indeed podcast episode on right now.
Perfect.
Also, big news. We're... Oh, what?
What? What's our news?
We are now on Apple Podcasts.
Yes, we are.
As well as the YouTube and the Spotify.
Yeah.
So if you're an Apple Podcast listener, you should be able to
access it on
there. And that's all of the episodes we've done so far.
Yeah.
And then going forward, they should be updating. But yeah.
Perfect.
So to find us, And all of the other episodes, if you're watching on YouTube, there'll be a playlist and you can catch up with our thoughts so far. Or if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, then just search for the Says Who podcast and we will hopefully appear. And you can listen to our dulcet tones through your podcast catcher of choice.
Yes.
But any last thoughts from you?
I don't think so. Any last thoughts from you?
Ducks are cute. Thank you very much for joining us. We will be back next week to look at the story.
And the engine.
Yes, we will. But until then...
Bye.
Bye.